Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Committee of the Whole. We have one item on the agenda tonight, and we're going to talk about the report on accounting methods. We'll have a discussion about that. So what I'll do, we'll start with the actual report from Dave Yost. This is the Auditor of State, and if you'll bear with me, we'll just go through how they're written from the state. So we have them broken down. The first three report on accounting methods comments are regarding the budgetary system. The first one, pursuant to section 5705.39 Ohio Revised Code, the city should not appropriate money in any fund in excess of the total estimated resources available for expenditure from that fund. The city auditor should ensure the appropriations do not exceed the total estimated resources in any of the city's funds. The second comment is the city auditor should verify that the revenues and appropriations in the accounting system match the latest certificate of estimated resources and annual appropriations and related changes approved by council. The third item under the budgetary system is pursuant to section 5705.10 Revised Code. The city should credit money levied and collected to the proper fund. During 2016, 17, and 18, the city has deficit fund balances in the general and water funds. The city should not use money from one fund to pay the obligations of another fund with a deficit. Move on to the chart of fund and account codes. There were no comments there. Moving on to county journals and ledgers, we had one comment from the Auditor of State, which is comment number 4. The city does not have a written disaster recovery plan identifying how the city should restore operations, including information technology and accounting functions if the city would experience a serious incident, flood, explosion, computer malfunction, accident, grievous act. The plan should address common terminology, preventative measures, a readiness plan, off-site locations, and an emergency contract list. The city should develop and implement a disaster recovery plan. Moving on to the third section was the revenue activity. The fifth comment, section 9.38 of the Ohio Revised Code requires the deposit of all public monies in the next business day following the day of receipt. The city is not consistent in following the requirements of section 9.38 of the Revised Code. The city should establish a policy to ensure that each department collecting monies is properly paying the money into the city treasurer's office within time constraints of the policy. Comment number 6, the city also has issues with safeguarding the monies it receives. Monies are often stored in either an unlocked safe or unlocked drawers. Safeguarding these monies should be addressed as part of the city's policy. Number 7, pay-ins should be completed the same day as deposits are completed and provided to the city auditor's office for entry into the accounting system. Number 8, there's no cross-training on job responsibilities in the city auditor and city treasurer's office. A staff member of the city treasurer's office should be cross-trained so that bank deposits can be made in the absence of the tax commissioner. A staff member in the city auditor's office should be cross-trained so that receipts can be posted to the SSI system in the absence of the account clerk. And number 9, council should create policies regarding how many times a meter can be read by the resident before the city is required to read the meter, how many times a reading can be estimated, limits on payment plans, define parameters for when service should be shut off and when adjustments can be done, and who should approve the adjustments. Comment number 10, the earnings tax department should open and sort all tax returns as soon as they are received. Any payments should be deposited and not placed in bins on the office floor. Number 4, section 4, is the purchasing process. We have 6 in there. Number 11, the city does not utilize the Auditor of State findings for a recovery database when entering into all contracts. Section 9.24, Revised Code prohibits any state agency or political subdivision from awarding a contract for goods, services, or construction paid for in whole or part with state funds to any person against whom a finding for recovery has been issued by the auditor of state, if that finding is unresolved. The city should verify vendors against the state's database of findings for recovery before entering into a contract for goods, services, or construction paid for in whole or in part with state funds and save that documentation. Comment number 12, the city does not have a formal purchasing policy. Purchasing procedures for the city are not documented. A purchasing policy for the city should be developed, adopted by ordinance, and distributed to all departments. Comment number 13, the city does not have a formal bidding policy, and bidding procedures for the city are not documented. A bidding policy for the city should be developed, adopted by ordinance, and distributed to all departments. Number 14, the city, per section 5705.41D1 revised code, should approve all the in and out purchase orders in excess of $3,000 within 30 days. The city does not have the authority to issue then and now certifications in excess of $3,000 without action by city council. Number 15, the city should not issue purchase orders to a vendor before all the required information has been turned in and the city auditor has given approval. The city should have all new vendors fill out the IRS Form W-9, and the city auditor should approve the vendor before placing orders with the vendor. Number 16, the city council, per section 5705.41D revised code, should establish by resolution or ordinance the maximum amount for blanket purchase orders to be issued by the city auditor's office. Blanket purchase orders used without the city council having set a limit are not valid because the city does not have the authority to use blanket purchase orders without the action by city council. Section 5, cash disbursements. We have 4 auditor of state comments. This is number 17. The city auditor or deputy auditor does not review the checks after they are printed. The city auditor or deputy auditor should review the printed checks along with a payment voucher to ensure that the checks are complete and amounts are correct. Number 18, the city should document the procedures for cash disbursements, including staff positions and functions. This document should also include procedures for invoices exceeding the purchase order and the use of then and now certificates. Number 19, invoices are mailed to either the originating department of the city auditor's office. The auditor's office should require all invoices to be mailed to the city auditor's office. Invoices should be copied and sent to the appropriate department for approval and returned along with a packing slip and any other supporting documentation to the city auditor's office. Number 20, in prior years, the city has not paid invoices in a timely manner and has paid significant penalties and interest. The city auditor should ensure all invoices are paid timely and no penalties or interest incurred. Moving on to section 6, we have 2. That's the payroll processing. Number 21, the employee who processes payroll has access to and is responsible for making rate adjustments and changes to the employee master file. An employee who does not process payroll should make rate adjustments and changes to the employee master file, or once received, have them verified by the deputy auditor or city auditor. Number 22, several negotiated contracts are expired. City council should pass an ordinance indicating continuation of the contract or approve new contract. Moving on to section 7, this is capital assets and supplies inventory. We have 6 auditor of state comments, 23 through 28. The city does not have written policies and procedures for capital assets, and the city does not annually verify the existence of capital assets. The city should prepare and adopt a comprehensive capital asset policy that should address such things as valuing donated assets, assigning salvage values, establishing capitalization thresholds, and determining the estimated useful life of an asset. The city should prepare written capital asset procedures that include documentation for each asset and describe how accountability will be maintained. The policies for capital assets should be approved by council. Number 24, the city does not have written policies and procedures to account for consumable inventory. The city should prepare a policy for consumable inventory. The policy should include an annual year-end physical inventory. Procedures for performing the inventory should also be developed, documented, and maintained in the office of the city auditor. The policies for consumable inventory should be approved by council. Excuse me. Number 25, the city is not using a formal capital asset addition or disposal forms. In order to better track asset additions and dispositions. The city should enact a policy that documents these transactions. 26, the spreadsheet used to track infrastructure should include the useful life for every asset listed. 27, the city does not use asset tags. The city needs to develop a method of tagging capital assets with each asset having a unique number. The city, excuse me, the city should assign tags and asset numbers to assets at the time they are delivered to ensure all assets are accounted for. And finally, under capital assets and supplies, we have number 28. The city does not perform an annual review of capital assets. The city should annually review that all capital assets are still active assets of the city. Moving on to section 8, auditor state comments for cash management and investments. Number 29, the investment policy filed with the clerk of the Bureau was received on September 27, 1996, and does not address the allocation of interest. The investment policy should be updated and should include the allocation of interest, be signed by the treasurer and auditor, and filed with the clerk of the Bureau. Number 30, the city should have written procedures for petty cash and replenishment of it. These procedures should include the individual designated as a custodian and the custodian's duties and responsibilities. The petty cash accounts should be included as part of monthly bank reconciliation. Number 31, the city should identify all reconciling items included as part of the monthly reconciliation process. It should identify why the reconciling item is necessary. 32, the treasurer should review and sign the monthly bank statement. And finally, last section, section number 9, financial reporting, we have 2. Auditor of State comments number 33, a copy of the monthly bank reconciliation with supporting documentation should be presented to City Council at meetings. And the last comment, number 34, the city's minutes should state what financial reports were provided to council. So that concludes all of the comments. This was directly from Auditor of State Dave Yost's report on accounting methods. So what I've done, I have taken all of that and put it into an Excel spreadsheet, which you have a copy in front of you. So we'll just run down these real quick. And what I did, first column tells you what department, so these are budgetary. You'll see you have 3 budgetary, then county journals and ledgers, revenue, etc. Just so we're all on the same page. Then I have the comment number, and then I have the actual comment, and then listed under departments who is responsible. Perhaps let's see. Number 1 was the auditor, but then it has counsel, so there will be some type of resolution and/or ordinance regarding that. And then the next to last column tells us where we're at currently. The first comment, in process, this is monitored throughout the emergency and will not be considered complete in time of fiscal release. And fiscal release is what we're striving for, right? And then I added an extra column and highlighted in yellow where you'll see some comments I put there, and we can go down those quickly. We'll go through these. So if you'll bear with me, I'll go through the Excel spreadsheet. Let me get a drink of water here real quick. So the first column, as we had described previously, it's under budgetary, it's comment number 1. And that was the pursuant to the section 570539 revised code, the city should not appropriate money in any fund in excess of the total estimated resources available for expenditure from that fund. The city auditor should ensure that appropriations do not exceed the total estimated resources to any of the city's funds. That will require action by council. That is under the auditor's purview. And the comment I have is in process. This will be monitored throughout the emergency and will not be considered complete until time of fiscal release. That column right there, these are comments that I've received from April or Anna Mary. Okay, just so I send this to them as well, and I ask her to please update us on any developments if there's something that we need to do, and give us guidance and whatever she feels that we need to continue to do. So, and some of these, she's going to, I guess, be testing these until that day of fiscal, right up to the last day. So what I'd like to talk to her about, I'd like just for her to share with us, you're good, we'll continue to monitor. That's what I'm feeling that this is comment is saying, okay? So that we've done what we need to do, but they're going to continue to monitor that and review that and audit that. Yes, Mrs. Winterbow.
Thank you. With any of these, and I've kind of underlined as we've gone through the notes, has there been any specific time frame of we're going to do this monthly, or have we received any kind of information like that where there's a specific timeline, we know how frequent they're testing or anything like that?
Very good question. The answer is no. I do know that they were here recently. They had several people here, and I think they were here the whole day. Moving forward, I can ask that she notify us, just so we know, what day they're going to be here and who they're going to be talking to. Typically, they talk to the auditor's office and the treasurer's office, and I think the last time they were here, just a few short weeks ago, I think they had several people here, and we're here for pretty much the duration of the day. But that's a valid point. Maybe we should know when they're going to come the next time. Mr. Moore?
Yeah, just on the first three in particular, jumping out, the first three were partly a product of, there was just a mistake. They just showed up. They didn't give us the notice they were supposed to. The first one in particular, there was a fund, I think, that the next appropriations ordinance was going to fix that problem, but they came in and did the analysis then. The other two were the next two were a question of, well, we didn't have enough money, and so we appropriated stuff. We spent more than we had. We, went negative in funds. Simply, that's how we were getting through the day. And so those three don't do that anymore. I don't think there's really a check on that. Those three, they're not really monitoring those on a regular basis, other than every time the fiscal committee meets, they're looking at, here's the certificate of estimated resources, here's what you've appropriated. Okay, that's good. It's really kind of a basic thing. We all knew we weren't supposed to be doing that, but it's kind of where we were, so.
Yeah, and I think they're going to.
And so there's some in here that are just like, that's already been taken care of, but we're going to double check again before we let you out.
Right.
Okay, so when we get to the end of the fiscal release, we haven't done that check.
They're just not going to say, they're saying, well, okay, you look good now.
Okay.
Right, but again, we're going to double check and make sure that you didn't over appropriate more money than you have before we, sign off on that. For the first three anyway, that's kind of what they are. It's kind of just the way things are supposed to be run. And so there's not we're going to go in and run the books at that point. It's a very easy kind of check to do, and they just want to make sure. There are some that are in here that are like that. The hard part is knowing, what are we good on? Can you give us a list of what are we good on? And give me a list of the things that we're not good on yet and what we need to do.
Yeah,
and that's the hard part with this.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Moore. Mr. Thompson.
I think that's what we've been attempting to do here. By my count, there's like 10, 11 things that have to wait till they say, it's time to come out of fiscal emergency. Are you still doing this stuff? Yes, you're still doing this. So I think we need to concentrate on are the things that aren't those things that wait till the very end. Get everything crossed off of this list that isn't completely dependent on them going, this is our final meeting, you've been doing this, so that we can go to them and say, it's time for you to do the final meeting, we've been doing this,
Yeah.
And I know that's why you put this list together.
Yeah. Right. What I intended for them to do as well was on those items, those 10 or 11, I would like to highlight those in green, say those are good, they're green, they're good to go. We don't have to worry about those and don't have to lose focus, and we can focus on the other items that we need to make sure that we're working on.
Okay.
So those are all valid points. Thank you. So we'll skip down to number 4. This is talking about the written disaster recovery plan, which I think we had a presentation here, and someone had brought up about your system being hacked. and I don't think that addressed that. Do you remember that, Mr. Moore?
I don't remember.
We can talk to Mayor Schneider about that this evening, but I think they were going to add some language to that. So this one is in process, and I think, as a matter of fact, you see over in the yellow, sent, that should say sent to Anna Mary, not send. So I think they've already sent that to her. So, Mr. Brady?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And on the second to last line, it says the emergency contract list. That's contact?
That should say,
Contact?
that should be contact
Perfect,
list,
yeah,
I
I was just
think.
making
Yeah, I
sure.
saw that in the
That's what I
actual
thought. I was just making
document.
sure that that wasn't something I didn't understand.
No, you're correct, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Then moving on, we talked about the written written disaster recovery plan. Moving on to comment number 5, that is the Section 9.38 of the Ohio Revised Code requires the deposit of all public monies the next day following the day of receipt. And you'll see that is treasurer, law department, and then there'll be an ordinance by council. And the comment that sent back was, has been tested by us. We will periodically schedule to test until fiscal release to determine if that is being done in practice. So that's probably referring to another one of those Mr. Thompson alluded to. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I would also note that we've got council listed on this, but this doesn't seem like something we have to actually pass anything for. It's more a best practices thing for the treasurer.
Let me see, that was number 5. I think there was some terminology in there, Mr. Thompson said there was,
Oh, it says established policy, my fault.
no,
You should be able to.
yeah, the city should establish a
Yeah.
policy, so I guess,
Okay,
So that makes
we
sense.
just gotta write it down,
yeah,
vote on it.
yeah. So I tried to, when I was reading this, I tried to put, anyone that you see council as something that
Right.
council will have to.
And that's, in that case, then that's not gonna be something that's in green, because it still involves, even though they're checking on it periodically to make sure we're living up to it, we still need to act on it.
Right, and then also in number 1 and 3, those have, I think, council action as well.
Yeah.
When we're talking about the first 3, the second one doesn't, but number 1 and number 3 do. Let's see, number 6, I think that was about safeguarding the monies it receives. That is no action by council, but that is under the treasurer. And, but it does, she did say over here, and I'll have to touch base with her again. It says need policy encompass all departments with money, so I'll maybe get a little further clarification.
I don't think the clerk takes any money,
Yeah.
the clerk of council. I guess maybe somebody needs copies, but we don't usually charge for copies, so, stuff, so.
We'll have to.
I think that may be included, the receipt of money, because there are other fiscal policies beyond the purchasing one that I think the auditor and treasurer have got drafts of that they, that they've put together. As far as I know, nobody's asked me for anything, because the ones we have, the samples we have would encompass all of that stuff as well.
Gotcha.
And, let's see, number 7, that was the pay-in should be completed the same day as deposits are completed and provided to the city auditor's office for entry into the county system. And I think they just said, hey, everybody, you've got auditor, water, building, health, rec, police, fire. Has been tested by us. We'll periodically schedule to test until fiscal release to determine if this is being done in practice, and that does not require any action by council. Number 8 is the cross-training on job responsibilities, and those departments were the auditor and treasurer. The note says auditor's office will have job responsibilities and crosswork that can be done by position, needs sometimes, I think that should be something similar from the treasurer's department. Auditor's office needs updated after change in contracting for payroll. The new person we hired will have other duties that will need to be written down. So I think that is pretty self-explanatory there, what the auditor and treasurer have to do there. Number 9, this is something that council will have to take action on. Pardon me, it's council should create policies regarding how many times a meter can be read by the resident before the city is required to read the meter. we're getting the note out to the right, it's the radio read meter. I think that will cure this one by implementing that. So I don't think, well, I do, forgive me, we do have, council will have to take action on that as well.
And that one, I think, is where we're waiting on the administration and Public Works to tell us, here's what we think the policy should be.
Yeah. So that one's in the works. The 10th one is the Earnings Tax Department should open and sort all tax returns as soon as they're received. This is the Treasurer's Office. The comment from the state was, needs to be tested. AOS will periodically schedule to test until further release determined that's being done in practice. Number 11, this is the city does not utilize the auditor state findings for a recovery database when entering into all contracts. This will require action by council. This is under the mayor, safety service director, and auditor. Comment is needs to be tested. We'll schedule to check this periodically until fiscal release to determine if that's being done in practice. If this is being done, the search on the website needs to be printed or archived showing search performed on the contractor. Not really sure about that. It's in parentheses. I'm not sure how that would work, but I assume that if council is going to create an ordinance or resolution on policy, that would be encompassed in there.
That's in the draft purchasing policy. The question is, it's the auditor that does that? Is it the service safety director or staff that does that? But the requirements in the draft policy the finance committee has.
Great. And then number 12 was the formal purchasing policy. That will require action by council. That is with the auditor and the law department. And it says in process draft policies reviewed and sent back to the city. So I know you're working.
Yeah, and we covered that off in our finance committee, so.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Number 13 is the city does not have formal bidding policy. That is
It's in the same thing.
same thing. And 14 is the city council should approve all the now purchase orders within $3,000 within 30 days. That's with the auditor. That will require council action, and in process for a policy, we will have to test this periodically until final release.
And I think that's one where it's like, don't do it, council, because that council's activity there is like, okay, if you get a then and now that's more than 30 days old, you shouldn't pass it. So I'm not sure how you unravel those transactions, but without
Right.
that, but yeah.
Yeah. Let's see, moving on to 15 was the city should not issue purchase orders to a vendor before all required information has been turned in and the city auditor has given approval. That is under the auditor's responsibility. In process for a policy, we'll have to test this periodically until final release. Yeah, that says in process for a policy, but it doesn't say that we had required action by council. I'll make a note to check with her on that one. 16, City Council per section 5705.41 should establish resolution or ordinance the maximum amount for blanket purchase orders to be issued by the city auditor's office. The auditor, the law department are working on that. That will require action by council, and it says in process. I need a copy of the ordinance. Will test compliance to the ordinance. And I had a little highlight in here that says Anna Mary needs copy of the ordinance. So,
Did we pass an ordinance that says that has a max for a blanket purchase order?
I don't think so.
I don't remember.
I don't remember that. I'll have to ask her what she
I need
needs.
somebody to tell us what that maximum should be.
I put a check next to that one. The city auditor or deputy auditor does not review the checks after they're printed. The city auditor or deputy auditor should review the printed checks along with payment voucher to ensure the checks are complete and the amounts are correct. That's under the auditor. Needs to be tested. Auditor state will periodically schedule testing until final release to determine if that is being done in practice. And moving on to page 2, we're up to number 18. This is regarding cash disbursements. The city should document the procedures for cash disbursements, including staff positions and functions. That's the auditor. It says in process, reviewed draft and sent back review comments to city. So we'll have to ask the auditor if he can provide us feedback about the comments they received from the auditor state. Number 19, that's also cash disbursements. Invoices are mailed to the originating department of the city auditor's office. So that encompasses just about every department in the city, and it says it has been tested by us. Auditor state will periodically schedule the tests until fiscal release to determine if it's being done in practice. This needs to be added to the procedures and policy as well. Number 20.
Mr. Miracle?
Yes, sir.
If that needs to be added to procedures and policy, council will have to pass it too.
Yes. And number 20, in prior years, the city has not paid invoices in a timely manner. And it has said that it's paid significant penalties and interest. And that's under the auditor, and it says this has been tested. And they're going to continue to test that until fiscal release. And 21 is under payroll, which we, of course, now we have a new payroll contractor, but does the employee who processes payroll has access to is responsible for making rate adjustments and changes to the employee master file. That is under the auditor, and it says it has been tested. And they will continue to test. And the second one regarding payroll, that is several negotiated contracts are expired. Well, we're working on that. We've already passed one. We're gonna.
Yeah, these are, we're good on that.
Yeah, we're good on that one.
We're not 3 years past, so.
Number 23, assets and inventory. As you'll notice, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, and 28. Over in the far column, you'll see I've spoken to the mayor regarding this, and that he said that NORCOM group is working on all of these in concert. So that will be 6 that we hope to see from them, some type of ordinance and policy from them. And the feedback we had was it was in process. And they sent an example to use and update, and they'll check that this is put in place. So that is 6 that I know that Mayor Schneider told me that NORCOM is working on. And that takes us to number 29. We have 3 under cash management and investing. The first one, investment policy filed with the clerk of the bureau, was received September 27th, 1996, and does not address the allocation of interest. That is under the treasurer and the law department. That will require council approval, and it says it's in process. An example sent to use and update, and then we'll check and see if this has been put in place. I'm going to make a note to see who that's been.
Wasn't sent to me, I don't think.
So I'll check on that one. Number 30, the city shall have written procedures for petty cash and replenishment of. I think that Mayor Schneider has eliminated the petty cash policy, so we can check that one off. So that was an easy one. 31, the city should identify all reconciling items included as part of the monthly reconciliation process. That is under the treasurer heading, and it says that it's in process. Auditor state continues to work with treasurer and auditor department on reconciling items. I had your notes through October 2020, but I think it's even further than that now. I think they probably through January. If
I
it's,
know James has met with people, so that recently in the last couple months. So.
Yeah, I know they're putting a lot of work into that one, so making good progress on that. And then 32 is also the treasurer should review and sign the monthly reconciliation. Same comment. And a copy of the monthly bank reconciliation with supporting documentation. So this also is with the bank reconciliation, which is under the treasurer. Same comment. So that brings us to the last one. The city's minutes should state what financial reports were provided to the council. And Mr. Thompson, I've asked for Anna Mary to spell that out for us, specifically what she's looking for. Because I don't think
It seems to me that when we have in our minutes what documents we receive and file, it should be covered in that, but
Yeah.
we just have to make sure we're getting the right documents from.
Exactly, and that's what I asked her, tell us exactly what you're looking for, we'll make it happen. It's
Yeah.
pretty simple, because I think you're already doing it anyway.
I think Mr. Stith is doing that now. We get our financial reports are sent to us, and then in the minutes, we have a letter. I mean, I think he started doing that.
Yeah, I think you're right, Mr. Braden.
Yeah.
And I just think she just wanted to see that.
Right.
And I just wanted to ask her, make sure that we are doing exactly what she's asking us to do. And so that's a simple fix as well.
It may be that, I don't think council's, I don't know if what we get from the auditor's office, I get a copy of it too, includes the monthly bank reconciliation that the treasurer is supposed to, I don't know if that's included in there or not, but
Right.
that would be the thing. But the minutes do reflect, we set it up so it's like you get a letter saying we've sent this, and so that's in the minutes,
Yes,
so.
yeah, I agree, Mr. Moore. But we'll just double check with her, and then when I get that, I'll forward that to everyone here, and Mr. Thompson and the Finance Committee can do whatever needs to be done. I'm sure they will. So, any questions? I know I did a lot of talking. Primarily, what I wanted to do was to make sure that everyone was aware of exactly what is required, and to read those to you so that you see what the expectations are. So, and then with the Excel spreadsheet, just kind of a scorecard, keep us all, up to date. I'll be sending it out to you, and when I report out on my committee report, I'll make sure this is part of the minutes. And I will ask the auditor state to help me out. I like my little color-coded things. It's just the way I am. So if we could turn some of these green, and then you guys can say, okay, those are green, I don't have to worry about those. We don't have to focus on those. And then get some more updated comments from Mr. Thompson.
Yeah, question for Mr. Moore. I know in our finance committee meeting, Mr. Stith had brought up that, that the two things we were talking about, that was kind of one document, and there's a few other things in here that I think are wrapped up in that, but there was a desire to sort of hold off and pass a big bunch of documents that take care of a lot of this. Do you have it on here well enough defined for you to know what each of those individual documents should be, so that we can hey, we've got these 6, we need 2 more, then we can pass it, that kind of thing?
I can probably figure it out. It's a lot of it's just okay, the asset tracking is this, and we may have to do a petty cash, I don't know, but those
Yeah.
different things, we're just waiting for auditor, treasurer, whoever, Norcom to say, okay, here's the policy, and once this auditor of state signs off on it as, yeah, that one works, then I think we can wrap it all together and pass it. And if we pass too much in one, I don't think that's a problem.
Pass too much?
If we have too many policies in one.
No, that's not a
order,
problem.
I don't think that's a problem. Right, so-
One thing I'm concerned about, though, is just waiting to get a bunch together. If we've got 3 or 4 that are ready to go, it's almost like, let's just get them crossed off the list rather than having it sit.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. I would rather, if we've got 3 or 4, let's knock them off, turn it green and move on, and then worry about the other ones.
I mean, and the thing is, we could do that once we get the auditors, hey, the purchasing policy looks good.
Right.
Council could pass that, and then, we've got an asset thing, we've got an investment thing. We can always add those to it, pass it. Here's the new fiscal policy, here's the updated fiscal policy.
Right.
We could totally do that.
Okay.
Ideally, it would be helpful, I think, to keep all of it in one,
Sure, makes sense.
big document, because then you kind of all know where to look for it. So-
It's almost like you're passing updates to it rather than
Right.
individual policies.
Yeah, but I don't know if the state's okayed any of it,
Right.
any of the written policy stuff.
Well, I emailed them
yet.
today and asked them if I can meet, Teams meeting with them this week, just for that purpose.
Yeah.
To say, hey, can you look at this again? Let's, give us an update so we can keep reporting out. That's what I'd like to do on a monthly basis with the committee of the whole, is make sure that youth is on there, and can report that out, so we can all work on it together, and then we can report it out at the next meeting when I give my committee as a whole report. And appreciate, everyone's work on this. I know there's a lot of people working on it. There's a lot of detailed work, and I know that Mr. Thompson and his finance committee doing a lot of work as well. So Mr. Bonzel, Mr. Stith, and I know the mayor, and there's many other people doing it as well. So, but it would be nice to get 3 or 4 of these passed and have that good feeling of moving a step closer to the fiscal release, as they say. So, Mr. Thompson?
Yeah, quick question. When you reach out to the state, are they like generally pretty responsive to you? And like, do they give you, do you say, hey, can we have comments on this? And they're like, yeah, and then we don't hear from them? Or how has that communication been going for you?
I have to say that both Anna Mary and April are very responsive.
Okay, good.
I think, my sense is they want this done as well. I know they put a lot of work into it, but they've been very supportive, very helpful, I think.
Great.
That's my opinion. Mr. Braden?
Oh, thank you, Mr. President. So how long have we been going through this fiscal emergency now? What year was that? Was that
Middle of 2006.
6?
I mean 16, not 16. 2016. We've been in fiscal watch since maybe 2006. That could be.
This has been going on quite a while.
Yeah.
Here's my thing. We've all been working pretty hard on it, and I tell you want to get at it, and so we all are, obviously. But and you are dealing with these people. I'm not. I'm watching from the outside, and I'm trying to learn all I can. And it's kind of my opinion that our agenda doesn't really line up with their agenda for some reason. It's almost like a carrot. It's almost like a carrot on a stick. Like they're not going to tell you. They're not going to tell you that you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I can tell here, and maybe you can correct me, please. If I'm saying something that I'm out of line, I need corrected. But what I can see, what I'm observing is that it doesn't matter what we do. We're at their mercy, and we are doing everything that we can do. In my opinion, I see all of you working very hard at it, Mr. I mean, this is I see you working very hard, but it does not matter. We are at their mercy. We are doing everything we need to, being that, mad dog to try to get it all done. But we are at their beck and call, and from what I can tell, what I can see, is we're doing everything we can to get out of it. But we are just gonna have to wait till they're ready to bring us out. So, I don't think they're gonna tell you, and maybe they are responsive, but it's, when I can tell, when you're at those meetings and asking them, hey, let's check this off. They're not willing to check it off. They're not going to do it. So you can pass this till you're blue in the face, and they're just not going to give you no credit. So we are at their mercy, and I believe, it is my opinion, we are doing everything we can. So it starts with you, and I appreciate all your work. So
Thank you, Mr. Braden. I think that speaking as an accountant to other accountants, I think by the lot of us are just conservative, fiscally conservative. So,
yes, sir.
And I would rather have it right than right now, and
Yes, sir.
I think from the outside looking in, I think sometimes you might say, hey, what's taking you so long? But I think there's a considerable amount of information here. I mean, this report was, 47 or 48 pages long. I should know this. I've looked at it so many times, but I think they're not only working for us, they're working with many other cities as well. So we don't have their undivided attention, I guess what I'm saying. But there is a lot to do, and that's why we have everyone here trying to do our part and to get it done, because I think we all want the same thing. It does seem, I see what you're saying.
I have one more thing to say.
Yeah.
So the one, and I don't know where it's at here, it's at the beginning, I have a feeling that they can do this in any city in America. They can come through here and they can find some things like this, and I'm okay with that as long as, making us better, but like, keeping our tax returns on a box on the floor. I mean, that's been in there for how many years now? Like, how long do we have to look at that? Like, I know they're not doing that anymore, so I guess my point is I think this is just, some of these comments are just made to be like, you know, they're not helping us, really.
Well, we were put, the city was put, we were put in fiscal watch in the, I don't know, 15 years ago, however long it was a long time ago. We wanted to be in fiscal emergency, we couldn't get in there. But we were put in fiscal watch I would say, you know, for all the time we spent in fiscal watch, nobody said you need to have this stuff. This came only after fiscal emergency, even though the state auditor was here all the time, going through everything and watching everything we did. They did a performance audit at the time, and there were a few things that were, you know, along these lines, but not many. I mean, the reconciliation thing has been an issue for a long, long time, but the bank reconciliation. But we were placed in fiscal emergency because one fund, which is it's a fund, it's like $100,000, $120,000, when they came, was out of balance. It had a deficit of more than 1/12, and that's the standard to be put in fiscal emergency. The general fund was not, we were not put into fiscal emergency because of the general fund. We were put into fiscal emergency because of that fund and a couple other minor things, which have nothing to do with all of this that we have to jump through. This stuff all came up after that. They also didn't send us the 30-day notice they're required to send us that they're going to do a fiscal emergency analysis. If they'd sent that, we would have taken, oh, here's the $14,000 we can take out of this fund and put it in that one that's short, and then we'll be good, and we would not be in fiscal emergency. So my perspective on this is I am so tired of the state and the constantly moving the bar and coming at, they drive me insane with these things. We say, like, you need a policy. Well, what should the policy be? Well, we don't know. You'll have to ask your law director. No, I'm asking you, what is it we're going to need to pass? Because I don't know. What is it you're looking for? And, well, you do something. So you send something to them and they send it back. That's no good. Try again. Well, what's wrong with it? Well, you'll just have to try again. That's been my experience for I don't know how long with this division. And it's different people than it was originally in the fiscal watch. We had Dave Thompson here. That was some of the it's just been frustrating. The whole thing's been frustrating. So the sooner we can get whatever this is that they're asking for done, and the sooner we can get out of this, because the financial reasons are gone. And at the time when we were put into fiscal emergency, looking at, oh, here's where the projections are on this, and then council passed, the big one was the retiree health care. You add that, and I remember sitting down and doing it on the back of my agenda that, you know, the first meeting we were in, and I'm like doing this quick math in the bathroom, like, we're going to be out of fiscal emergency in a year and a half, maybe two years on the outside. The finances will be fine, we'll be balanced. And so I think there's been some good things, like we need a capital recovery or the capital improvement separate thing in the 5-year forecasting, and that's all been, there are some good things that have come out of this. Mm-hmm. But the vast majority has been busy work, and I'm so frustrated with it. So if there's anything I can do that anybody needs, so we can get this done and get the boxes checked and, you know, get back to running ourselves, I will be more than happy to do it.
I think it's where we all want to be, but I do think, and I do know that, you know, there's some pain points here, but I do think we implement these, we're going to be a better city. We'll be more efficient, more effective, and if we make sure that we continue to do these, it's going to be better for the city. Mr. Brandon, do you have your hand up?
I do have one more comment. I'm not going to go on and on, but, you know, I feel your frustration because I feel it too. You know, for 8 to 10 years now, we've been working on this, and, you know, I can remember Mr. Bonzel. Mr. Bonzel became head of finance, and me and him and I worked very hard. I think my first year we were $1.5 million in deficit. I think our first year, and then after 4 or 5 years, I think last year we ended with $6 million. I mean, it was crazy. So I can tell you, Mr. Bonds was working on it as well as myself, and then you know, others as far as Mr. Thompson, everybody, you know. So our work has done what it takes to get us out of here. We're just not out, and I guess that's my point. We have worked. When I was elected, we were $1.5 million in the deficit. We owed $1.5 million at the end of the year. We couldn't make payroll. They were talking about shutting the city down. And now last year, I think we ended with $6 million. Or, you know, I don't hold my to that, but well, I know we're doing better, and I know that we've done what it takes. We've pinched pennies, and here we are. we're just waiting, we're following that carrot, because they're just doing this. And that's the way I feel, and maybe it's wrong to say that, but that's just the way I feel. I feel like doing what we're supposed to, and we have done what we're supposed to. So that's it, that's my last comment, I promise.
Thank you, Mr. Braden. Mr. Thompson?
Yeah, we all share in the frustration because it feels like, I mean, our first two, well, it wasn't your first 2 years, but the first 2 years back, what we did was we sat here and we didn't do anything except try not to spend money, you know? We did a lot of things to get us going and going. For me, I sense the being dangled by the carrot, which is why I'm kind of all fire on taking as much control of this as we can, because I want to be in the meeting where we sit down and say, you said we needed policies on this, and this. Here they are. We based them on what you gave them, and guess what? We went ahead and passed them. If you want us to revise them, that's fine, but we'd like to go ahead and check these off. I mean, that's the kind of proactive attitude I think I would like to see with them, because otherwise you're gonna say, we've got some drafts here. When you have time, would you take the time to look at it and get us back for it? And we've been getting back to it for years. So I just kind of want to do our best guess on these, get them on paper and vote on them, and then let them tell us we need to amend them, as opposed to not. Because if they see that they're done, I'm thinking that might be good enough. And it might not, they might just want to keep dangling us along, but at least we're being proactive.
Well, and I'll tell you this, John, one of the frustrating things for me is, if it hadn't been for the state in the first place, we wouldn't have been that $1.5 million short. If it hadn't been the changes in the property tax and the local government fund and the other changes they made, that was some $850,000 a year that we lost out for how many years, we wouldn't have been that short. And then for the state to come in and give us grief about it,
I
that's,
understand that.
that's rubbing salt in the wound.
I understand.
Well, I think we're being proactive and we're making progress. So thank you for your time, and that will conclude our committee of the whole. And we are finished at 7:25.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks.